found the GroomPod. Welcome to our virtual salon. My name is Susie, and I'm your host. I'm a mobile groomer from Seattle, Washington, and anybody who knows me will tell you I love to talk, especially about my job. And one of my favorite people to talk to is my friend and mentor and the co-star of this show, the curator of ingredients, Miss Barbara Berg.
Hey, Susie. I'm so glad to be here and have some fun with you today.
And we're going to have some fun with Jennifer Jenkins Bishop. Did I get that backwards? Jennifer Bishop-Jenkins. Jennifer Jenkins. We're going to talk to Jennifer. I screw that up every single time. Welcome to episode 437 of the GroomPod, recorded on February 2nd, 2025 in Snohomish, Washington, Powhatan, Virginia,
Powhatan. So Pocahontas' father.
Powhatan, Virginia, and Greenville, South Carolina. This podcast is brought to you by our kindest sponsors of all, Best Shot, Show Season, Precision Sharp, Groomore, and Stasco. And if you guys would like to support us, you can do so at our website, thegroompod.com, and use the donation button. I send that right to Barbara. Or you can join us to support the show monthly on Patreon. This week, we're talking to Jennifer Bishop-Jenkins all about her trip to Saudi Arabia. How badass is that? So what's new this week is brought to you by Groomore Software. If you haven't found Groomore, you're missing out. Groomore is an all-in-one software solution for your grooming business. Whether you are a solo mobile groomer or manage several shops, Groomore has everything you need. 24-hour online booking and forms, routing, credit card processing, reminders, Google Calendar and QuickBooks integration, and so much more. And the best customer service anywhere. Shop, mobile, or house call, Groomore has you covered. And they're giving us a free month. Just enter GroomPod22 in the coupon code. What's new is there's been a lot of conversation about Groomore on the Facebook groups these days.
Oh, yeah?
And from what I understand, they're having a reorganization in their business. Financial, structural reorganization, and they are still going to be around. They are a good sponsor for us, and man, I like their software. So I want to reassure everybody, I feel really comfortable personally with them holding my schedule and my data. I'm good with that. I love the system, and I want to help them as much as I can to get the word out that this is just a reorganization. They're not disappearing or anything like that.
And I love the people, great people at Groomore.
That gets a ding. Really good people. This week, everything is thrown out of whack because now it is snowing here. Wah, wah. And my new beautiful truck does not have four-wheel drive. So I can't drag a trailer. Yeah, not going to drag a trailer through this.
I'm so glad you know where to draw the line because you're such a Jane Wayne. The younger sister of John Wayne.
For you young folks, that's a reference to John Wayne, who was a great, Western TV movie hero, but nobody younger than us is going to know who he is.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Jane Wayne, I like that.
Hey, let me tell you something that I did. You know the slicker brush that came from Amazon?
Yes.
That looks like it's going to be a good deal for a slicker brush with protected pins. Mine came.
Yes.
I've got a confession to make. My dogs are in such bad shape. They got terrible attitude towards grooming, both of them. One of them screams like she's being butchered alive, and the other one just gets gnarly and jerky. I'm just on like a table with no restraints or nothing, no help, and I'm trying to groom these little bastards. Well, I'll tell you what, the table is all set up for me to groom on it. And what I do is I sit there and do my nail polish at that table. I just don't want to groom my own dogs badly. It's really funny. I'm really ashamed of it, but it's so true. I just realized that I had not tried the hairbrush out on my two Malteses. I was going to, but what I did instead is I tried it on myself.
Okay.
I tried it on myself, holding a clump of hair. I mean, and I've got secret mats because I've been lying down a lot lately, and my hair is it's so broken and fragile. I really should get it all cut off and start over again. But I don't know if I have time for it to grow to where I like.
I get it.
I like it a lot. I like how it feels in my hand. I like that it's firm but long pin, so I can really get it through a thick chunk of hair. And this was the small one. I think it reminded me a lot of the Artero bamboo brushes, but I like this handle, even though it's freaking plastic and theirs is bamboo. How come you're going to have like half of a tool that you totally approve of, and the other half of it that you like how somebody else. Ah!
My bamboo handled Artero brush, it is turning black.
Turning black?
The handle from the moisture. So they're not sealing it very well. And I get it that it's wet in my trailer, but it's wet in any bathing environment.
You
it
know
shouldn't
what? Hey, you should contact them and tell them that.
Okay.
Because companies need to know when customers are disappointed in their stuff.
Okay.
All companies, they want to know because that's the only way they can track down what's wrong and make a correction. And there's a few of them that'll just say, fuck you. The good companies really treasure your feedback. You know, they pay to have groups of people that judge their stuff. You are the actual paying customer. So they want to know when your handle turns black.
Okay. I do like the plastic handles better, but I didn't have a problem with the bamboo handle. It was fine. I can wrap it with vet wrap. I didn't expect it to kind of turn gross looking. It still functions.
Yeah, that is gross. But is that mold? But is that toxic mold?
I don't know, maybe.
I think you should be using gloves. I think we all should be using gloves. I've come to that conclusion, and I was a hate gloves person for decades. But now I appreciate the use of gloves for groomers. I mean, a lot of hairdressers wear gloves, and some barbers wear gloves. And you know what? They offer some compression to your thumb and wrist so they can kind of like help the discomfort of grooming a little bit.
What do you think of the length of the bristles?
Well, I would like to have a short bristle option, but I like them. They seem okay, but it is going to be a more fragile brush. I have this little roller that I put ointment on, and I can treat my back because I had psoriasis back there. And it comes with a little cap that you just put on like that. Why can't they do that with these fragile long pin slickers? Because it's really bad on the hair when you brush with a slicker that has wonky pins going in all different kinds of directions. It's going to not function correctly.
Good point.
And it can damage color.
I think when I mention my black handle, maybe I'll suggest a brush cover
Yeah.
because they're good company.
Yeah, because we have read several comments of people like them, but they didn't hold up for a real long time. That's because people throw them in drawers. I know what goes on in the back room. I was there. I mean, even if I have hooks, you're going to throw them in a drawer. But you really do need to hang your good brushes, whether they cost $15 or $150. You should hang them wherever possible. Okay, well, I just added my 2 bits. What do you think?
I agree. As Barbara pointed out, I decided to just send the brush to her instead of getting one for myself. I did get my Le Pooch brush, and yeah, it's not the same brush. I mean, it's still flexible and everything, but it's not the same brush.
I don't think it could possibly be with all of the changes that have gone on in the ownership of that company. and the time passes. And during the pandemic, people scrambled for new sources of cheaper goods, to manufacturing sources of materials. So people actually changed their source of materials, like pins for a pin brush, and didn't tell us. And they didn't go back because it was a better deal anyway. And this company was there for them when they really needed them, right?
I took this super close up picture so that I could inspect, and they're very well polished, but they don't have the little ball on the end like the one that we took a picture of, my original one that had the little kind of a ball on the very end. Yeah, this doesn't have that.
They used to actually file the tip off.
Yeah.
I know. Well, this one looks a lot like the pins in the arrangement, and they're black pins on a black brush. So that's really cool. And they got black tips too, so the tip, it's clear that they've been like dipped in something and tipped. They're not very big. The pins are very thin and the tips are very thin, even though they do have teeny little ball on top, which does not snag my finger as I'm going to the side of the pin.
Or your own hair.
No, or my own hair. Well, I thought it worked well.
Cool. Still, I'll probably get one anyway, but I just figured I'd let you go first. In case you didn't like it, then I wouldn't bother.
Well, thank you, because I really needed a new brush.
Good.
We will get back to grooming my dogs, but I'm telling you, it's funny. It's like I quit. Been there, I quit. And my passion is keeping dogs looking clean and cute and flowy and everything. Marco has matted legs that look like boots. I'm not lying. That's the truth.
The shoemaker's children never have shoes. That's just the way it is.
They have boots. He's got these big casts on his legs.
As you guys know, I do all of my vets' animal grooming. So I've got a bird vet. I do her dog grooming. I have a dog and cat vet. I do his dog grooming, and I do my horse vet's dog grooming. So I went out to the horse vet, and of course that's where Vicky Camel is. So I get out there, and it's just beautiful. The sun is out, but everything's muddy because that's where we live. And I'm wandering around, and I give Vicky a bunch of horse treats. She's so cool. She's got both her humps now. It all filled out. She looks like a big healthy camel, and she's still super personable, and she watches me through the door of the trailer. She's just awesome. And then one of their dogs came up, and I gave him a few cookies and said hello, and then I walked over and I rang the doorbell like 6 times. Then I called on the phone, and I could tell people were there, but I couldn't find anybody. So I finally got in and drove away. And it's a little bit of a hike to get to his house. And I sent a message. I said, yeah, I figure you must have had something down at the barn. He said, no. There were 6 people in the house. Not a one of them got up to get the door. I told them you were coming. I was in the shower. He gave me an extra $100 when I got out there the next day to do the dog.
That's the
I know.
Way to treat your groomer. Yeah.
Yes, but I got out there, and it was dumping rain, and the mud was even worse, and it was so dark I couldn't see Vicky the camel, and his new wallaby. Got a wallaby too. So I didn't get to see the wallaby because it was gross when I finally got out there. I felt so lucky that I went out during the sunshine to visit with Vicky Camel, because I wouldn't have gotten to see her at all in the rain because she hides. She goes inside. She's not a rain camel.
Yeah, well,
Hey, is that a good segue or what? I just rolled right into that.
Yeah, let's go to Saudi Arabia.
I'm so excited. Okay, so I'm going to play a bunch of ads, and then we're just going to roll with it. This is going to be so fun because today we're going to talk about Jennifer's trip to Saudi Arabia. Let me tell you about Best Shot's newest addition to the Ultramax Pro line. Ultramax Hair Hold is a flexible hairspray that can be layered on for a stronger hold. Ultramax Hair Hold Spray is great, but my favorite new product is called the Max, and I won't groom without it. It's a fragrance-free ultra-concentrate conditioner and detangler. It reduces drying time and handles undercoat and tangles like magic. Just a few drops in the final rinse or spray it on and dry it in. Contact your favorite Best Shot distributor or learn more online at bestshotpet.com. Grooming success begins with Best Shot in your tub. Made from the best stuff on earth.
Show Season has a great enzymatic cleaner called Kennel Fresh. And you dilute it with warm water and it smells good, and then it evaporates to be a deodorant. As the Kennel Fresh dries, it's enzymatic, it eats the bacteria and the odor source. So it's really good stuff. You can use it indoors or out. Find it at your local distributors or showseasongrooming.com.
The GroomPod and Precision Sharp would like to invite you to check out the newest precise cut shear called Lynx. Its patented design features a thumb ring that slides the length of the handle for perfect ergonomic placement of your thumb. Slide it, lock it into place, and get your best grooms on. Check it out at precisionsharp.com. Ready, groomers? Here comes our first appointment. Jennifer, how did you get this opportunity?
I just got a phone call from a company called Pet Products Trading Company, and they are apparently this gigantic pet distributorship. I mean, they do the whole range of the pet industry: foods, doggy beds, cat houses, stuff for iguanas and bunny rabbits, and they are all over Europe, Asia. They've got offices in Shanghai and in Slovenia and all over the Middle East. And Pet Products Trading Company holds this annual, it's kind of like Super Zoo, only in the Middle East. And they're headquartered in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I got this phone call saying that they need to know more about dogs because they don't really know dogs in the Middle East. They know cats. Apparently, pet ownership is like 90%, 87, 88% cats, and maybe 8 or 9% dogs, and then the rest kind of bunny rabbits and other things. And they really don't know dog grooming there, but because the Middle East is becoming more international, more metropolitan, more modern, cities like Riyadh have a lot of international residents in them. There's young people with social media with new ideas. Inside the city of Riyadh, for sure, they have a lot more people that are starting to look at dogs, and especially since COVID. Although the vast majority are still into cats, but they wanted somebody that could come there and teach in a more academic way the basics of dogs, and just really almost like from scratch. And they researched around for speakers, and they invited me, and I was thrilled to do it. It was the most fascinating thing. And it wasn't just a Middle Eastern audience. It was certainly, Asian and European as well. But I got to go and speak at this conference for several days in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where I got to train. There was a class online of about 50 groomers watching, and then there was a handful of them, less than 10 in person in the room, and we were all on video. And I did my 15 code types training about dogs, and I also did an hour about cats, and I focused on their anatomy and their physiology, how thin their skin is and things like that. And then we did another day of just actual working on grooming a dog in the room and grooming cats and going over techniques and so on. And it was fascinating. There were speakers from all over the world there, and getting to listen to other speakers and getting to go out to dinner with them. And my gosh, nobody puts on a conference like the Saudis, let me tell you. High-end everything, hotel, food, side trips for us. I mean, just amazing, amazing vacation week.
Okay,
really nice.
I never answer unknown phone calls anymore. Did you get like a weird area code or a country code or something? Did they call back? Did they leave a message? Because now I'm wondering how many opportunities have I missed because I didn't answer my phone.
No, I mean, I got an email first
Okay.
and then setting up the phone calls. So yeah, I expected it. But the people that staff the pet products trading company are all over Europe and Asia. So I spent several visits with a woman in Slovenia who is kind of their program coordinator. But it was truly extraordinary getting to meet these groomers that are working in the city of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and how cats are 95% of what they do. And so here's the history, and here's where I'm going to kick into being a history teacher for a minute. This is my main career of my life has been being a history teacher. The Prophet Muhammad actually said, and it's in the Quran, that dogs are unclean and that cats are a blessing from God. They are a sign of God's favor. And what you have to do is go back, way back in the history of the whole Middle East. And it isn't just Islam that teaches this. There are references like this in Jewish historical texts and in Christian historical texts and in Zoroastrian historical texts.
Hey, wait. That was a word I don't know. Can you please tell me what?
Zoroastrians?
Yes, please.
That's a religion.
Okay.
It's like the 10th largest religion in the world. It's
Thank
sort
you.
of Persian area, Zoroastrianism. In any case, they're all Middle Eastern monotheistic religions, and they're all really connected to each other in terms of their cultural development and their historical development. And what we know is if you think back thousands of years to life in the Middle East and where the cradle of civilization began, I mean, our oldest civilizations are Egypt and Babylonia. And so we have documents going way, way, way back. And we know that they didn't have a lot of water. It wasn't a superbly plush existence. And vermin were everywhere. Cats were really a handy thing to have in your house because they would kill the mice and the rats and the moles and the voles and things that would carry disease and eat your grain that you were trying to store in your house and so on. And dogs would be more roaming in packs outside. They could carry rabies. They didn't have vaccinations in those days. And dogs would be seen more as an outside animal. It's not that they're without function or place or purpose, but they were seen as guard dogs. They were seen, as farm working animals. It would be like the same as today somebody in America thinking that it's okay to keep a horse inside your house. It's an outside animal, right?
Maybe.
Of course, Susie, you might keep a horse in your house.
She will.
I'd bring her in a second.
You'd bring her inside if she could fit through the doorway.
That horse is going to get inside there. I send her every reel that shows somebody that has their horse left.
Yep.
He can do it. And there was a cow, and it had horns, and it was negotiating around the house. This woman had rescued it when it was, with its mother still nursing, and she nursed it, and it just bonded to her and thought they were a couple. She would come in and just she had a spot in front of the couch where she would just lie down. I had a 4-H lamb that used to come in and chew her cub and watch TV.
It helps you to understand the culture. It's not that dogs didn't exist there. Is that they're outdoor animals. They're not to be coming inside.
And their functions were outdoors, and people didn't turn them into their babies.
It's very clear in the Quran that they are called unclean, meaning that you don't have them inside your house. And to this day, I had employees when I had my grooming shop in suburban Chicago for the last 15 years. I actually had a family that was Bosnian in ancestry that lived in the Chicago area. And they're all dog groomers. All 3 of the kids became dog groomers. But the mom wouldn't let them have a dog inside the house. She was very strict about that. So these cultural practices persist. What I saw in Riyadh, which was very exciting to see, is that small dogs Pomeranians, Maltese, that they're starting to see more of the smaller dogs being introduced. And because it's becoming a more international city, more modern and more young people, more technological, more in touch with the outside world, there is a growing embrace of dogs. And so it was just really exciting to be kind of at the ground floor of teaching groomers who were hungry to learn. It's just so cool to see that groomers are there at the beginnings of a cultural transformation, accepting dogs in your home and having that be part of modern living. I feel like I'm part of a generational historical shift there. And I was very proud to have been asked, and really, really, it was an amazing experience.
And you were the perfect person to do that. I'm so happy for you.
It was emotional, I have to say, at times to see these young people handling a dog for the first time and having to show them how do you get at the armpit and how do you clean around the rectum and how do you handle. And unfortunately, the Pomeranian that we were working on in person there had been shaved previously, which of course destroys that beautiful primitive triple coat. It had only been shaved once, and it was well in the process, and the dog was young. So, I had some hopes that it could come back, and we talked about conditioners and other things that they could do. But the coat was really damaged. And of course, people should know that any of these primitive triple coated breeds like Pomeranians, Chows, Huskies, Malamutes, Samoyeds, if you shave them, there really is permanent damage that is quite serious. But this one was coming back. So it was exciting to be able to actually show them how to do a little coat repair too.
What were the demographics in the room as far as the students? Was it girls? Was it boys? Was it older? Was it younger?
Fascinating that you would ask that. It was 1 girl and 4 boys.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was interesting to me too. I asked them, is it more men than women at your grooming business? And yeah, it's more men.
Is it more of a career that you start as a young person knowing that you're going to be a groomer, or is it more like here where we decide later in life that working for the man sucks and we want to do something much better, and then we go into grooming? That seems to be a lot of us here in the States.
I got the impression that at least a couple of them had families in the pet business for some reason. And I didn't ask the young men, but a couple of the young men were from the Philippines or they were from Indonesia or something. They weren't native to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So it was really interesting. I don't think I would have seen any Arabian men grooming.
That's what
dogs.
I was wondering. If it was the boys, are they going to continue on? Do they move on?
Yeah.
I mean, the culture is so different and how they live is so different. I mean, there's similarities, of course, but they really do come from a different world than we do. And tell me, was there a language barrier?
Thank God everyone speaks English as a second language. And I that was the first question I asked when they called and offered me this traveling to Saudi Arabia thing, is that, I am strictly an English speaker. However, I've traveled a lot of places around the world, and I have found everywhere I go that English really is becoming truly international second language for most people, which was exciting to see. I also found, though, very interesting the focus on good business. Like, the pet industry is good business. The Saudis are anything if they are not business geniuses. And they are all about top-notch professional business practices and going where the money is and doing good business in whatever industry you're in. This was a huge conference. It was not as big as Super Zoo, but it was that type of a gathering, and on a smaller scale. And it was spectacularly, the technology, the gigantic LED screens, the massive modern entertainment systems that they had going at the banquets. And it was just an incredible experience. And so, it's good money. It's good business. They have figured out that the pet industry is good money. It's good business.
What were their what was it? Wow. Okay. What was their equipment like?
It's great that you ask about the equipment, because I had to plan ahead with my mentor from Slovenia, the lady who was bringing me in as the program person. She was very clear that I needed to bring my own equipment because it really didn't have much, especially for dogs. And although there's a lot of tools that you can use on both. So I had to check a bag, which I probably would have had to do anyway, because I had to take scissors and clippers and things that would never pass through TSA, right? So I had to pack a big suitcase full of a lot of grooming equipment. And I want to tell you what I did at the end of this. I told you I had some students online, a lot of students online, and I had a handful there in person. And these young people, when I pulled out my scissors, my chunkers, my curved shears, my thinners, I didn't bring my absolute best equipment. I bought my second tier equipment because I knew I was traveling, and you never know, you might lose it or something. But they would hold my shears after I showed them correct hand positions, and I gave them all these exercises for how you scissor and all of that. But they held them like they were worship objects. I wish that I could have captured the look on their faces when I would let them handle my thinning shears or my really good curved shears or whatever. And I had brought plenty. And so each one of them got to handle some of my own equipment. And they were literally almost in tears. They were in awe of my shears, my clippers. I brought my little Artero Extron mini clipper. I brought my big Oster
All the toys.
cordless clipper. And I brought a wide range of other things. They touched my equipment like it was the most spectacular thing they'd ever seen in their lives. And so you know what I ended up doing? I ended up giving each of them my shears. I just gave them my shears. I just said, here, you keep it. Because the looks on their faces, I'm getting choked up just thinking about how much it meant to them to see the good quality stuff that we have here.
That's exciting. And they would probably, of course, have the ability to order on Amazon and stuff, right? I mean, they can get some, yeah.
Yes, and I pointed that out to them.
On AliExpress, you can get some pretty decent shears.
Yes.
They're cheap, and
That's Pakistani, right?
it's out of China.
Oh, it's Chinese. Okay.
Their scissors aren't too bad. They don't last as long as your really good scissors, but they're so cheap you can just buy another pair.
Yeah.
There's everything's there.
Right.
Well, not the full clippers, but there's blades on there, replacement blades. There's just freaking everything.
And then they took all of us that are the speakers. It's probably off topic here to tell you about this, but they took us on this recreational desert oasis day field trip where we drove for several hours out into the desert. And they had this, like, I guess it's where the rich people go to play, because it was the most amazing several hours. I got to ride a camel.
Ooh.
I got to shoot archery. I got to drive go-karts around in the desert. I got to hold falcons. I got to eat the most amazing banquet out under the stars. I got to sit around these little fire pits where they had the water pipes going, which I didn't do, but everybody else was doing. And
I would have been there.
And the sand out there, the sand was like talcum powder. It was so soft and fine. It was the most amazing thing I've ever felt in my life. Growing up on the shores of Lake Michigan in Chicago, the sand is
Of course.
rock. It's very gritty. This sand was like powder, like velvet. And then they took us out on this dune buggy thing and flipped us around in the sand dunes. And I mean, this was how they treated their conference speakers. I was like, wow.
Wow.
Where did you stay? Nice hotel?
I stayed at the letters are like HOYO or something like that, but it's Saudi, it's Arabian name. But it was a very, very classy hotel. Riyadh is a capital city. And inside every building I went to, and I did go into different buildings to go shopping and to go to meetings and things like that, and everywhere, fresh flowers. And not just one bouquet of fresh flowers, but a whole huge dining room table size of 16 different gigantic glass vases filled with the most extraordinary, beautiful fresh flowers everywhere you went. There, I mean, the food was beautifully artistically done. I just have never seen anything like it. It was the most classy, elegant place I've ever been.
Woo-hoo.
Because I'm the worst eater in the world here. What kinds of foods did they give you? What was it like eating there? Because that would be a challenge for me. I wouldn't share that information and I would be a very polite guest, but it would be very difficult for me to eat weird stuff.
And of course, I'm a pescatarian, so I only eat fish. I don't eat any mammal meat. And of course, they had a range of things, but they had, little salmon dishes and stuff. I think you would like falafel. Have you ever had falafel?
Mm-mm.
It's chickpeas ground up and then sort of fried into a batter. They make like a little hard biscuit sort of, but it's green. Chickpeas are green. It's delicious. I loved falafel. There was some squid-like things that I didn't eat, but lots and lots and lots of dates. Very sweet, delicious, probably super high calorie. I did gain 3 pounds that week. So no, it was wonderful food. Their coffee is very famous, of course. Arabian coffee is very famous, and they have these beautiful, elegant coffee pots that they are very famous for. But I don't drink coffee. I don't do anything with caffeine. And so when I would say, do you have an herbal tea as opposed to this regular tea, or do you have something that's not caffeinated? And they just looked at me like, what? What do you mean not caffeinated? Is there? I was a bit of an oddball there in that regard.
So is the city inland?
Yes, it is. It's in the middle of the desert. And they took us out to a place, one of our other day field trips, we did a little outing, just the speakers. We went out to a place called the Edge of the World. It is literally called the Edge of the World. And it's kind of like the Grand Canyon, only without a river at the bottom of it. It has these spectacular rock formations. And again, it's about an hour and a half out of Riyadh in the middle of the desert. But there are what used to be an inland ocean. It used to all be millions of years ago underwater. There's these incredible rock formations that resembles partly the Grand Canyon, although not as much of it. Like you reach up to the edge of these rock formations and you look out over flat, dead desert. And so it really does look like the edge of the world. And part of it was a cave. We got to climb down a ladder into a cave and see bats inside a cave. I just had the coolest time. I'll post all the videos on my Facebook.
I'm claustrophobic.
Oh,
When I was a kid, I liked to climb into little caves. But as I got older, man, I got caught behind my waterbed one time. I just about went fucking nuts.
You could stand up in it in most parts of it. There was parts at the back of it where we were going to see the bats, where we had to bend down. But it was so cool. I'll post videos on my personal Facebook page.
Yeah, we want that. I love that camel photo. That's such a keeper. That's you up there.
you get on the camel, then they stand up and you think you're going to get ejected right off the back, right?
That's right, because you're riding on top of the hump on this saddle, and they have to kneel down to let you climb up on them. And then they raise their back legs first so that you are almost now like hanging over, you're going to fall onto the ground. And then, then they get up on the front. But to ride them, the saddle itself was like this really comfortable. Oh my gosh, it was so cool.
They're bigger than you think, especially when you're up top.
Oh, yeah. And they need to be groomed really badly. Oh my gosh, this camel I was riding, I wanted to take a hairbrush to that poor thing.
Oh, how funny. You said you did a little shopping and roaming around. Did you get to see a grooming shop at all?
I did not, but I got to see pictures of the one that this group of young groomers that I was working with in person. They're all in these little booths up against a wall. They don't really have grooming tables, not that I saw. They had, like somebody had built a giant shelf and then put cubicle walls between them. And their bathtubs weren't a sunken in tub like what we have. They're more like water tables. There's a little bit of an edge around it. But when they were bathing, we were bathing on a surface that was only maybe 5 inches deep. It was like an elevated table that had an edge around it. And that's how we would bathe. Yeah, it was very different.
So no
Very
bathing
different.
systems,
No grooming
no
tables
grooming
that I saw.
tables, no grooming arms.
That I saw. No, they had little sticky things on the wall, but the cats, they're mainly set up for cats, and so they want these private cubicles where the cats are not able to see each other. I actually introduced my technique of using a large towel to swaddle a cat. If you know what swaddling is, it's this tight wrapping where you crisscross the towel around when the cat comes out of the bath. You crisscross it around their arms and legs and then wrap it up tight because cats don't like their arms and legs akimbo in space. They like to feel their forelegs tucked up underneath them tightly to their body. Otherwise, they don't feel safe. And this is one of the most important things I have found in cat grooming. They like claustrophobic as opposed to not feeling claustrophobic. They don't like their arms and legs out in the air. And so I taught them about wrapping the cat that we were grooming in a towel. And they all just thought it was the most brilliant thing they'd ever seen. And they didn't even know about the idea of undercoat hairs and topcoat hairs. They didn't really know anything about how thin cat skin is compared to even dog skin, which is still way thinner than human skin. And so just giving them a little bit of that anatomy, they were just blown away. It was amazing.
Did you get to listen to any of the other speakers? Did you know any of the other speakers?
I did, and I didn't know them, but there was two other Americans. One was a social media expert and how to use social media to market your business. And the other was a build your franchise, build your brand, pet store retailing expert, and how you could design your shop physically to help sell the products better and things like that. But my two favorite speakers, one was from Portugal, Gonzalo, and he is a veterinarian who is an expert in cat behaviors, like what kind of litter to use and what kind of litter not to use, what kind of litter boxes, why you need, if you've got 3 cats in a family, and this is apparently very common in the Middle East, you'd have 3, 5 cats in a family inside, why they have to have each their own litter boxes and each their own different kinds of food bowls, and why you have to keep them designed in a certain way, and what brands to use in terms of like Pretty Litter and Silicates, that super absorbent cat litter in America that's very popular right now. Really bad for cats because it's got silicone. It's super absorbent, all right. It's also sucking the hydration right out of the cat's paws, and cats are getting paw problems. So it's just that kind of stuff. It was very, very interesting. So he was just amazing. And then the other one was this incredible woman veterinarian from Slovenia, Urška, who taught me a lot about why I've been overfeeding my dogs. She taught a lot about the proportions, like what would be the equivalent of a bowl of this kibble. It would be like 6 hamburgers to me. So just fascinating. Yeah, I took other classes and they were amazing.
Did you walk the trade show floor?
I did.
What was interesting and different out there?
The treats, all the brand names, I didn't recognize any of them. They had treats for dogs that were sort of in these plastic tubes that were like a soft, mushy, liquidy.
Like churu.
Yeah.
Churu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. My cats love that.
Yeah. They had, Purina was there.
Everywhere.
They're everywhere. But seeing brands that I didn't know, seeing a more natural, a lot of emphasis on the natural and organic stuff, it was fascinating.
Do they dress their cats up in clothing and things like we do?
I didn't see any clothing for cats.
Okay. So that wasn't out there. No big grooming warehouse there?
Yeah, no, grooming is new there. Grooming is really, really new. I felt really excited to be at the ground floor of the beginning of the introduction of grooming, because a lot of people don't groom their cats even, although because they are the dominant pet there. I asked them, they said most of their cat clients, they only see a couple times a year for just a bath, and most of them are short hairs. They don't have a lot of long-haired cats.
Boring, all short coats.
Oh yeah, boring cats. Yeah. You know what was the hardest thing for me to keep quiet about?
What?
The hardest thing for me to keep quiet about was all the women that were covered.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, wrapped in black from head to toe. Yeah.
In 1,000,000-degree weather.
Yeah. Well, I was there in January, so it was very pleasant, but I bite my tongue.
Did you have to cover your head?
No. That was another question. I asked when they called me for the first time and said, "Would you come?" I actually said the first thing out of my mouth is, "Do I have to wear a hijab? Because if that's the case, I won't do it. I won't do that to women. I just won't do that to the sisterhood of women worldwide. I won't cover my head." But I said I can be respectful. And one of the things she said, no, Westerners that are tourists that are here on business traveling, and you're in the city, it's no big deal as long as you don't show your shoulders. So I could not wear sleeveless, not that I would have anyway, at my age especially. But the main thing is just to wear sleeves and to wear, nothing above the knee in terms of a skirt or something like that.
Because I'm nosy, did you get to see a residence or a picture of a residence, a house, an apartment building where people lived?
Oh, yes. We got toured around the city. We got toured around the countryside. We drove through some more historic villages on our way out to the edge of the world and the desert oasis place we went to. And it's very like adobe-like structures. If you think about, like, Barbara, you would have recognized Arizona architecture, right? Very square buildings with clay-like colors and exteriors.
They use the desert.
Yeah, they use the desert, and it looks very much like the desert.
Cool.
We drove by one place when we were out in the country. We were stopping just to use the bathroom in a little town, and there was a guy out grazing his sheep. No, I don't think they were sheep. I think they were goats. I've never seen goats like that in my life. They had hair as long as an Afghan hound.
Wow.
And they had giant curly horns that were just huge. They had the most beautiful hair I've ever seen. I wanted to groom them too.
One of the things I do when I travel is I look for local wildlife to see what's different and what's out there. Is there any wildlife?
There's all sorts of bugs in the desert, of course. And I saw bats in that cave that were the smallest bats I've ever seen. I've been to Carlsbad Caverns in the United States. I've seen bats in Austin, Texas, which are a very famous part of Austin, Texas's culture. Our bats here are much bigger. These bats were literally the size of my thumb. You guys know that bats, they don't have hearing, they have sonar. They don't hear sounds, they read vibrations in the air and so on. And so even though they were hanging asleep from the top of the cave, we were using kind of a blue light to look at them. Their ears were vibrating because we were talking. We were inside the cave talking and moving around, and their ears were vibrating. Like, that was the coolest thing. Never got to see wildlife like that up close.
Birds?
I'm sure there are, but I can't imagine that there's a lot. Maybe there's probably scorpions too, but I didn't see anything. Goodness.
All right. Yeah, I was just wondering, since it's such a different environment, what would be out there.
Totally.
I was fascinated when I went to Barbara's house in Arizona because I had never been in a real desert kind of environment, and there was neat stuff running around there. Yeah. All right. What's your biggest takeaway from the trip?
My biggest takeaway is that American grooming is ahead of a lot of people around the rest of the world, and that we have really good products, really good tools, and really good education and really good science, and that it's exciting to see that places in the world that are not as geared to a pet industry as we are starting to wake up and realize that this is not only good business, but it's really good for people to have pets. It's really good to have a dog or a cat living with you and have them enhance your health and your quality of life. I got several really wonderful conversations about the emotional aspects of pet ownership and how people are finding meaning in it. And
That's cool.
in a modern world, how that is a loving and meaningful and healthy thing to do. And they look to us in the West. They look to us for the best in technology, the best in education. And to be a part of that was just a really great privilege.
Cool.
It sounds like you had an amazing trip of a lifetime. Would you go back?
Absolutely, in a heartbeat.
All right.
I bet you do. Yeah, you need someone to carry your bags.
We're there.
Kind of weird.
I've been practicing my contortion tricks, so I can fit in a suitcase pretty well. So, pack me along.
Yeah.
No, you guys, absolutely. I think that we should do more outreach to the developing world to share our grooming industry. I was lucky in college to be a part of an exchange student where I got to go for a semester behind the Iron Curtain in 1978 to Russia, to the Soviet Union in those days. This was nothing to do with dogs. This was my being a college student.
You are amazing, girl.
I mean, I've been very blessed with these amazing opportunities. I think that there is so much of the world out there, and this is why I'm a social studies teacher. I think Americans are geographically isolated. We are culturally isolated. We think we are the only thing going in the world. And most people in the United States that have never traveled outside the United States really do not know how huge and gorgeous and amazing of a world there is out there. But it's also a world that we groomers can be sort of ambassadors to. I think pets are kind of like that international connection.
Like music.
Like music, exactly.
Cool. Well, on that note, I think we're going to call this one a show. Thanks for being here with us, Jennifer. I think that ties you with Dave Campanella I think this is your third appearance. So that's pretty good. You're right there.
What an honor.
Always nice to have you. Thanks a lot.
Love you guys.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for supporting our sponsors. Thanks for listening, you guys, and always being there for us. We really appreciate it. Happy grooming, everyone. We'll see you next time on the GroomPod. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everybody.
And take care of yourselves because you know we love you.